Hi, I'm Karen.
And I'm Elise.
Welcome back to Poodle People,
where we talk about all things poodles.
Hi, Heather. It's so nice to connect with you. We've been talking a lot, but it's just really nice to get together.
Yes, I'm so excited to be on the podcast again. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for our guests who are just tuning in, Heather Blakeman is joining me for a repeat of her very popular episode. It's episode 13. So we won't recap too much from that. I would really encourage everyone to go back and listen to episode 13 and all of that information firsthand. But Heather has a lot going on. So Heather, just give us a very brief recap of your credentials, your experience, and what's going on with you currently.
Okay, I'll attempt to keep it brief. There's a lot happening.
Very exciting.
Well, I am a certified professional dog trainer. So you'll see after my name the credential CPDT-KA, and I've worked in the behavior field for a little more than a decade now. I also have that FFCP, so Fear-Free Certified Professional, and that is a product or byproduct, I guess, of my involvement in the veterinary field for more than 20 years now. My full-time primary job is now being a hospital representative for Trupanion, but I've always kept alive a sort of part-time profession as a professional handler in conformation. So that's going to be our topic in focus today, because we're so excited that I will be lucky enough to attend the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show in February for the first time as an exhibitor with a beautiful, beautiful show dog named Makers, who's a golden retriever.
Heather, it's really exciting that we get to talk about this achievement because it's an achievement for both you and for Makers. Tell us a little bit about what you expect, like what you're really looking forward to, and then I'll ask you about Makers.
Sure. So the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, of course, is historic. It's one of our longest lived dog shows, and it's a really unique experience at the top of our sport. So even just making it to be able to compete at that show is, a lifetime achievement. Yeah. It's also really unique from the perspective that it is, I believe, one of very few, if not the only remaining benched dog show around. So in the olden days, that was the way dog shows happened. You had a benching setup where your dog needed to check in at a certain time and stay all day, go to their ring, and then return to their bench until the benching time was up. So this show still runs in that fashion, which is going to be a brand new experience for me. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. So the show is in early February, the first week. I mean, it's the 8th to the 10th, right? 8th, 10th, and 11th.
Through the 11th, yes. We actually show on Tuesday.
And it's at Javits or Madison Square Garden. They're both listed on the website. So clarify what
both.
That means.
Yeah, it's at both. So in the olden days, this was the show at the Madison Square Gardens.
Yes.
Over the years, and especially over the last 5 years since COVID, the show has kind of grown to the extent where they couldn't comfortably fit it at Madison Square Gardens anymore. Mm-hmm. And so what they've done is split the show, and they've put the daytime events that require a little bit larger square footage at another place. So they've had it at like Lyndhurst Mansion in the past, a few other convention centers. This is the first year it's going to be at the Javits Center. And
so will you be in Javits or Madison Square?
So we'll be in Javits for the breed competition. Okay. And if the incredible happens and we win the breed, then we would go to Madison Square Gardens for the group competition in the evening.
So just an FYI, I've been to both venues, Madison Square Garden, many,
Really?
many times. Oh, yes. Jacob Javits is overwhelming. So know that as you go in. Madison Square Garden is a really lovely facility. I adore it. But Javits is very modern and huge and exhausting. So just think about that and figure out, don't let yourself get overwhelmed because you'll have a lot going on.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and call out a resource that I found that other listeners might want to check out. Have really been impressed by the Westminster Kennel Club's efforts to help people feel prepared for this show because it is so intimidating and it is so different from our typical
Yeah.
show. So they've actually put out a couple of kind of exhibitor orientation videos. Donald Sturts is the president of Westminster Kennel Club, and he hosts those videos and went on site to show you exactly where you will be unloading or walking into the entrance from above if you are not unloading, and really walked us through what to expect,
That's fantastic.
including
Yeah.
even covering like shuttles from the host hotel to
And
Madison Square Gardens and Javits.
and anytime you are doing something in New York City, you also have that extra stress and excitement, which can take a
Mhm.
mental toll on both you and makers. So,
Yes.
it's not like you're going to a small country venue here. You are seriously in the big time.
New York City. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so totally exciting. Tell us a little bit about Makers and how he qualified. He's obviously special, but tell us a little bit about him.
He is just wonderful. So I've been lucky enough to be involved with Makers since he was, I think he was 10 weeks old the first day I met him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his owners, Mary Nell and Larry, brought him to me for an evaluation, and we started training him like immediately. So this dog has been literally training for this moment for his entire life.
Wow.
He
Yeah.
is a young dog, so we think he might be the youngest golden retriever in competition at Westminster. That is because to qualify to show at Westminster, they do need to be a champion of record.
Yep.
And Makers is already a grand champion and was before he turned 3 years old. He turned 3 years old yesterday, actually. So he is in that breed that is like unheard of. Most
Right.
golden retrievers don't even go out on the circuit and start showing in earnest until they are fully matured because it is such a competitive breed. So, yeah.
And have you shown him the entire time?
I have not. So I have been his handler for a few really fun moments. So I put his first points on him
Nice.
in the classes, out of the puppy classes. I also put his first breed win on him at the big Louisville Dog Show and started him on his journey into the grand champion points. But he's had a truly high profile, just master of the sport handler. Madeline and Adam Peterson have been his handler when he goes out on the road. And I'm kind of the support back home because they're local to me. I help keep him in training, in conditioning, so that he is ready when he does go out for his full-time show stints. And he's also had, I referred them to my dear friend and wonderful, wonderful handler, Kristen Lawless, over the summer while I was on maternity leave. She took him out.
And if they are local, how did you end up with the lovely opportunity to show him rather than them?
I think, again, we just have that connection from me working with him and training him. Whenever we get the opportunity, I love to go take him and present him at the local shows and the shows when he's kind of in his off season. So the Lexington show, the Louisville show, when he's not officially out on the road on the circuit.
That is so nice. That's wonderful. So
It's been a
tell
lot of
us,
fun.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about grooming and coat maintenance for a golden.
Yeah, so I love to talk about conditioning because that has been my primary involvement with him is conditioning. And I think most people think about coat conditioning, coat maintenance first. So I work primarily with double coated breeds. So Golden Retriever, Australian Shepherd, Bernese Mountain Dogs, those dogs all have a very similar coat type. And it does require, I think, more maintenance than people recognize and realize. So I talked with makers owners when we first said, hey, we're going to Westminster, let's get a plan together. We started planning back in November to prepare his coat for February. It takes about that long, even with a male who doesn't have to deal with the hormonal fluctuations. So we got him on a bathing regimen of once weekly, ideally bathing as he's coming up to a show. In the off season, they are aiming for a minimum of every other week bathing. And more important than bathing is drying, and drying with a good quality forced dryer that doesn't use a lot of heat to then allow you to line brush that coat and remove all of that dead spent coat to allow for new growth. And yeah, that's kind of our coat regimen.
And does he get to go out without a coat, without leg covers? How do you protect that coat?
Yeah, we're lucky with a Golden Retriever. They're really what I would consider a wash and wear breed.
Okay.
So
you're
a
lucky.
correct Golden Retriever coat, yeah, not like a poodle at all. There's a reason I don't show and condition standard poodles, bless you. Golden Retrievers really, if they have that correct coat, I think it literally says in the standard that it's supposed to be like a straight coat with undercoat, but that is water repellent and very weather resistant.
Yeah.
And they really don't have, if they're correct, an excess of furnishings. So we certainly want to encourage and protect those, furnishings that do grow. But a little ice on ice conditioner is what I recommend during the summertime, especially to protect from UV. But really, there's not a ton that you need to do other than that, just kind of removing that dead, spent undergrowth.
And it's really nice that you are not dealing with a white coat because then you have to worry about grass stains.
Yes. Yeah. No, I am very, very glad there's no whitening in this breed. There's really less product than you would think in this breed.
So you just use a force dryer. You don't use a force dryer for most of it, and then a heated dryer?
Really don't have to with makers. He has a very correct coat. It is pin straight and it dries beautifully, lays perfectly with just a forced air dryer and a comb.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm sure if you had an incorrect or wavier coat, you would want to put a heated dryer on them in preparation for the show. But I've never had to do that with him. He's really like, you could just get him ready with a water spray bottle and a brush, honestly, most days. So yeah.
So let's talk about how you physically conditioned him, because I think you've been working with them on exercise and physical conditioning for a while now.
Absolutely. So, preparing a dog for this kind of top tier competition, I want to give him every chance to, stand up to the competition. And those dogs are out on the circuit, every weekend in preparation for this show. They are getting road worked. They're running around the ring, peak physical condition. And this dog, this breed should be shown in, quoting from the standard, hard working condition. So judges are looking at, especially at a competition like this where the structure is already, these are high quality dogs that you're going to see in the ring. They are going to be, splitting hairs looking at, is this dog in peak physical musculature in terms of being presented on that day. So the first thing we actually started with is backing up and looking at, what are we feeding this dog? Looking at the nutrition and the supplements to make sure that he is getting what he needs to be able to put on and maintain that lean muscle and support coat growth at the same time. And also just have a good immune system, because he is going to a tough dog show. It is going to be a little bit stressful.
Yeah. This is just like going to the Olympics. It's like getting a horse ready for the Olympics.
It really is. Yeah. So I had them speak with their veterinarian. Always recommend talking with your veterinarians, but then getting him on a balanced diet. So he eats Royal Canin Golden Retriever brand, I believe. And we just, we literally calculated his energy requirements and tracked his body condition score from the beginning and said, okay, this is how much we're going to be feeding him. And let's not knock that balance off by adding in too many toppers or treats or anything like that. Let's add in some omega fatty acids supplementation to allow for the coat growth and support. Then let's talk about exercise. So once we had kind of that base foundation laid, then we were able to start looking at exercise. And this I've had some help and support with here. So I do want to call out our friends at Central Kentucky Veterinary Center. So Makers went to their sports and physical rehab department for a consultation and to get started on a plan for getting him into peak physical condition. So part of that is involving exercises that they recommended that he do at home. We're also doing some just dry treadmill work with me at my house once a week, and his owners are walking him. I think they said they're doing like 2 miles a day and going up the steps at Bellarmine, like 212 steps a day. So they're getting in shape with him, I guess.
Yeah.
But really, really neat. What they're doing at Central Kentucky is using their underwater treadmill to help to target his thigh muscles. He already has a really strong core, but we wanted to really emphasize, again, that hard working condition that they would get from working in the field, from retrieving, swimming, and present him, as if he is then working the field. So they're doing underwater treadmill work to provide resistance, even doing sprint training in that tank. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so cool, and Makers loves it.
Really is exciting. It's so nice to see the dog world doing things that we have used, techniques we've used in the horse world for so long. And it is so similar. There are different things like cavaletti or sprint work or bending or all of those things that we've been using in the horse world. I think my opinion has always been that it's more common in the horse world and it's more rarefied in the dog world. So it's really nice to see it spilling over to regular dogs, even though Maker is not just a regular dog.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're 100% correct that it has been fairly rare in the veterinary world until I would say the last decade. At least in this area, it's really starting to take off. And I believe that department is still fairly new to Central Kentucky. I think they started it maybe 2 years ago or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was I going to ask you? Do you see his nutritional requirements increase with all of the activity he's doing, or has it not really needed to change?
Yes. So that is something that we addressed in my first kind of consultation with them. We looked at, first tracking exactly what his intake was prior to starting on this new regimen. And then I did, again, because I come from veterinary world, I always look at, what tools do we have there? And anybody out there that's listening can go to their veterinarian and ask them to calculate the dog's RER, or resting energy requirement. So that is what nutrition, what calories the dog would need just to maintain kind of a baseline. And then we can multiply that by a factor that is influenced by that dog's activity level and also by that dog's intact or spayed or neutered status. So because Makers was going to start having an increase in his activity level, we did start by multiplying that, I think, by a factor of 2. And so they did increase his intake a little bit. And each time he goes into Central Kentucky, they're tracking his weight and also his body condition score. So they can make recommendations based on where he's at. But we are shooting for a body condition score of about 4.5 out of 9. So that's kind of the ideal, where we've got good musculature and minimal fat coverage, like a good amount of fat coverage over the hips and where you can feel the ribs but not see them. But what that will allow us to see in the conformation ring is, Maker's movement will not be impacted by excess weight. So he is a phenomenal mover. He is extremely balanced. He has good reach, good drive. And I want to make sure that as he goes around the ring, that's on display, and his solid top line's on display, and he's not rolling because he's a few pounds overweight,
Right. So are you using the treadmill to improve reach and drive, or just overall conditioning?
Yeah, so I like to think of what we call road work in the sport. So road work is, if you go to a dog show and you see somebody working a dog next to a golf cart, or they've got their bike out and they're, working the dog on a long line off their bike, or you're working the dog on the treadmill. It's all with the same purpose. It's providing cardio and, the chance to kind of strengthen muscles. And B, it's to improve foot timing. So giving the dog a chance to kind of get into that ideal speed that we want them to just kind of slide into from muscle memory when they are going around the ring. And really that's 2 speeds. So the speed for when they're going around the ring, as they're going around the ring for the judge to look at the side gate, might be a different speed than the speed that you choose to take them on the down and back. So I actually work them at 2 different speeds on the treadmill. And I also work them at a pacing speed or a walking speed to warm up and cool down. But that's what I'm looking for, is at what point does the dog move in an ideal fashion that's not too fast or too slow to exhibit that ideal movement for that dog, and letting the dog just kind of get into the flow of gravitating towards that speed when we ask it of them in the ring, so that it's just, without a thought, they just go right into that speed.
Right. So how often are you putting him on the treadmill, and for how long?
Right now, we are doing just once a week because they are putting in so much work and effort outside of that as well.
Okay. Right.
So they're going to, Central Kentucky for the water treadmill, and they're doing their own walks at home. If he lived with me, in an ideal situation, you have a live-in dog and a treadmill, you can put him on there, once a day. And you do want to talk with your veterinarian again to get a good idea of where to start. I put my personal dog on the treadmill about, I would say, 5 days a week. And he's a little bit older, so we're kind of starting him from a baseline of about a minute to warm up at a walk. And then he does 2 minutes of trotting. And then he does about 3 minutes of a cool down walk after that, all on an incline. And he does really well with that. But What you don't want to do, and what we really don't want to do with makers, especially, is move too far too fast. So, this is the art of making sure that we're kind of doing low impact work that
Yeah.
is going to be sustainable and increasing it very slowly so that we're not going to cause injury. Because that's the last thing that we would want to do heading into Westminster.
And you also don't want him to get bored with the treadmill, whereas when he's walking or swimming, those are much more exciting activities. He can use his all of his senses, and the treadmill has that slight downside. I use the treadmill for Emmy when she was pregnant, and she went on every day. And
Mhm.
she didn't look pregnant when she was pregnant, and she doesn't look like she has babies right now. So I'm a huge fan of the treadmill, but it's not something, you know, you don't want to drill on the treadmill, especially looking forward to something like Westminster.
Yeah, and I do actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So with makers, we're doing multiple short sessions. So we
Mhm.
put him on it, get up to speed, maintain that for a little bit, cool down, and then we get off and we do something else. And I use the same approach for the what I consider kind of the last and what might be the most important part of our training and conditioning, which is doing that kind of behavior work. And so, in between our sessions on the treadmill, I get him out and we do put on the show lead and we do hand stacking, free baiting, gating work in preparation for, our presentation and just kind of working through exactly how we want to finesse that.
Right. So if you are limiting his treats, do you also limit his treats during that free baiting stacking session, or do you use treats then?
Yeah, so good question. I am using fairly high value treats for my sessions with him because they're once a week. Um, and we are using, he actually has decided he loves Baby Bell cheese of all things. So we're using Baby Bell cheese and Nukes treats, which are pretty low calorie. But I'm not too concerned about it because it's a once a week kind of thing. Now, at home, he has homework with his owners, are doing some free baiting work with him, and they're just using his food bowl for that.
Oh,
So they
nice.
have him stand every time you feed a dog as an opportunity to train, is how
Right.
I think of it.
Yep.
Um,
So getting back, I had a question that I forgot when I lost my train of thought, but does he do any other modalities like Beamer or acupuncture or massage, or are those not really part of the regimen right now?
They're not currently because he's just been really an easy, healthy dog.
Yeah.
I would say he's required minimal maintenance of any kind because he is just a well put together, correct dog. Now, yes, and he's young as well. Yeah. But I certainly have recommended with other client dogs that have had some spells where maybe they had some sore connective tissues or strained or sprained something that they reach out to their veterinarian. There's so many things that they can do. I was
Yeah.
talking with the Central Kentucky folks, and they are they do PRP, so platelet rich plasma. They do stem cell, acupuncture. I think they're looking at getting a therapeutic ultrasound and an electrical stimulation unit. So,
Oh,
I mean,
very
there's
nice.
just so much you can do. And I know other handlers and exhibitors swear by their chiropractic visits as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, there's a lot out there that you can do if you need it. And we're lucky enough that we haven't needed it yet.
Yeah, at 3 years old and in peak condition, it's really nice that he doesn't need it. And swimming might be just enough of that. It may give his muscles a release that way. Does he absolutely love the swimming? I would love to have a home pool for my dogs. It's like my
Yeah,
my dream equipment piece.
right. So I think I believe his owner said that his first session with the water treadmill, he was kind of like, what is happening? And he wasn't so sure at first, which is a very common, normal reaction, but he's definitely getting the hang of it. Now, the other golden retriever that I have been working with, who is a brother to Makers, his name is Trace. He actually has a swimming pool at home. So he
Nice.
has already been in like pretty awesome physical condition from that. And they just started doing the underwater treadmill therapy as well at Central Kentucky to maintain that through the winter, especially before he went out with the big time handler for the show circuit. And he loves the water treadmill. Like anything water, that dog he is all over it. So he's a big
fun.
fan.
Yeah. So you basically have 1 month, right? I mean, just a little bit shy. How early are
Yes.
you leaving for New York? Like, when will you be there?
Yeah, so I am going a little early. My sister's going with me, and we're going to do a little sightsee day on the weekend, and then we're going to attend the daytime events on Monday at the Javits Center to support our other friends who are showing.
Mhm.
So on that day, I think they've got herding and maybe non-sporting, and I can't remember the other one that's showing that day. But so we'll get to get eyes on everything. They're opening up the center for setup for the people who are coming in on Tuesday that evening. So we will actually get to put our table and our crate into our benching area
Mhm.
on Monday evening. And yeah, that's kind of the layout of things.
That's awesome. So, in addition to your sister and obviously his owners, who else is going to help you?
So this is pretty wild, but Makers has a serious cheer squad attending with him. He has about 25 people flying in to watch him. So we're affectionately calling them the Makers Bark Squad because he's named after the Maker's Mark bourbon. His owners are so sweet. They've gotten everybody a token to kind of wear for him. They're going to be wearing Maker's Mark scarves as we go around the city together. So,
Oh, you'll
yeah,
be having a little bit of makers to celebrate.
oh, I am sure, a lot of us are from Kentucky,
Yeah.
so absolutely. But yeah, I think a lot of them have what they call bourbon shots. So Maker's sire is Bourbon, is his call name. And he's been a very popular sire. So there's a lot of bourbon shots out there, and almost all of them are named after other bourbons. So I mentioned Trace. He's named after Buffalo Trace.
Grace,
There's an
yeah.
Elijah Wood. So yeah,
Fantastic. That's so much fun.
I know. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So, have you picked out what you are wearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've actually gone through several phases. So
I'm not
you know,
surprised.
right?
Yeah,
So get the opportunity to wear something that you would never wear at a normal, weekend show circuit at
right,
Westminster. So we say, the suit has to be Westminster worthy.
right.
So I will be, it looks like, if it works out, it's in the mail on its way here. I will be sporting a St. John that is bright red, covered in palettes and sequins,
Oh,
which,
nice.
yeah, I would never normally do that, but I was like, you know what? Let's stay
It's
on
Westminster.
brand with
Yeah,
the Maker's Mark theme, and it's Westminster, and you get one chance to make an impact. And
yeah,
by golly, I'm gonna,
yeah.
give him every shot he's got because he's a very deserving dog. So
So, how would you describe his personality?
he's extremely outgoing and exuberant. He thinks the entire show dog thing is a game because it has been, since he was
Yeah.
10 weeks old. We made it a game. So he loves to free bait and is just, it's almost a job of keeping him kind of tamped down when you're in the ring. Whereas a lot of my other breeds, I work with Bernese Mountain Dogs, and you're like, please look alive. Like, please look like you are enjoying this, because they're typically just kind of like, if you want me to, okay. Whereas he's like, yes, let's go. You want to go around the ring 3 more times? Absolutely. So he loves it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but I will say he's grown up a lot lately. I'm very much enjoying this new 3-year-old Makers, because he does settle down outside of the ring now. Finally, he's finally got it now in terms of when you can use the off button, when we can turn it on for the ring too. So
Right. And he probably has a very promising life as a stud dog.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, again, his father's been very successful. And now that I think he's old enough to get all of his health clearances, I'm sure he's going to be popular as well.
That's exciting. So it's been wonderful talking to you about this incredible achievement. I mean, it's really exciting when someone achieves a goal like this. I'm so excited for you. I know that you're going to have the best time, regardless of what happens in the ring. I mean, I will be cheering for you and hoping that, you are winning everything. But I have a feeling that you understand that the experience is going to be amazing regardless.
Oh yeah, we are, just I want to soak in every second of this experience. I'm sure it will be a whirlwind, but yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bucket list activity for sure.
So you are going to have to come back on and tell us what it was actually like when things have settled down and you've gotten home, because there are so many interesting things. Like, you'll probably have observations that you can share that will help other people who are aspiring to eventually make it to bigger shows. And I think that that would be really fabulous to hear.
Oh, I would love that. Yes.
So if anyone wants to follow you or Maker, how should they connect with you? What would be the best way?
Yeah, I think his parents are pretty active on social media. Certainly on Facebook, I'm sure they will be posting about his success and his experience. I don't know if they have an Instagram page yet, but we may have to create one for him soon.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So what were their names again? Just remind me, just in case anyone missed that at the beginning.
Yeah, so it's Mary Nell Haas, Haas, and Larry, and it's Foxmor Golden Retrievers.
Foxmor Golden Retrievers. Okay, fantastic.
And I forgot to mention his co-owner and breeder, Edna Fox. So she's been involved in the breed for a very, very long time. So
Okay. And you occasionally post pictures of him, because that's how I knew it was his birthday yesterday.
yes, yeah, I love to share all of his
Wow.
accomplishments and developments. So you can absolutely look me up on Facebook. Is kind of all my business page is also my personal page, so people can
Right.
find me there.
Super. Um, Thank you so much for joining and sharing this really fabulous journey with us. I'm so excited for you and Maker. It's such a fabulous achievement, and I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so much.
So we will definitely have you back on, and I will be watching, of course. And I hope everyone else will be tuning into Westminster so that we can see the fabulous dogs. So what day? He's Tuesday?
Yes, he is on Tuesday. That's the day that they're doing the sporting and working, and I believe terriers. And yeah, if you go to the Westminster Kennel Club.org website, they will have links to live breed judging there, and also information on how to watch the group judging later that day.
Excellent. And do you know what time roughly you'll be in the ring?
We do. The program is up. So he
Excellent.
is showing at 10:15 against 38 golden retrievers. So that means yes, yeah.
Slightly
It's
big
a
class.
yeah, golden retrievers are always one of the bigger entries.
Yes.
So it should take probably a little bit more than an hour and a half to get through all of them. Mhm.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
It's intense. This is a breed where there's many cuts made, so they bring them in smaller groups and work them until they kind of have the last men standing, or in women.
Wow. Okay. Do you get nervous or are you pretty, you know,
Excited. I mean, I
okay.
certainly
Yeah.
used to get anxious and nervous, but when you have a dog that is, as good as this dog, it eliminates a lot of the worry. So all you have to do is go in, have fun, and just do your best. And we've been really successful in the past, so I'm hoping that he'll get a good look that will
Yeah.
at least make a cut. Fingers crossed.
Oh,
So
wow.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, best of luck. And thank you ever so much for joining me again to tell me about this fabulous journey. It is so much fun
Thanks.
to learn about dog showing through you.
Thank you so much, Karen. You guys take care with this winter weather.
Good luck to you and Maker.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the podcast. Just a few details. If you have any feedback or questions, you can email poodlepeoplepodcast@gmail.com. You can also leave feedback on Spotify or Apple, and we will read those messages. You can message me on Instagram either under the Poodle People Podcast handle or my personal handle, Strong Contestant No O. And feel free to visit my website, scotchcornerstandardpoodles.com. You can see pictures of my dogs, my breeding program, my current litter, and you can find the link to my application on gooddog.com if you are interested in a puppy.